All right, this is the code review retrospective for 16.3, this meeting 2 of 2. We had one earlier today with Gary and I, which I also recorded, and I'll share both of these with everyone later. So yeah, I don't know, Sinchil or Carrie, if you have anything you wanted to bring up right away. Any initial thoughts or ideas about the milestone, things that you want to talk about?
I'll go first. I guess I just commented on there as well, but it's just mainly about the part about the deliverables slipping. So at least from my point of view, like to me, I mean there are some changes in the planning and stuff like that too, but I think it's more about myself planning how I'm gonna tackle during that milestone. Sometimes I get like bogged down with like other stuff like reviews or other things that I didn't spend good chunk of time early in the milestone. I think it helped when I spent like, for the first week, I spent time to actually go through the deliverables and spend more time deeply understanding. And then if there's any question or whatever, I ask it and clarify it before time passes too much. So I think that's something that I need to do more of to avoid my deliverables slipping. I think there's one example with the
You're
changes.
breaking up a little there.
There was the issue. Is it okay now?
Okay, now I can hear you. Yep.
Sorry about that. Yes, so sorry, my throat is a bit itchy.
No, that's fine.
No worries.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying that there's an example about a simple change about not allowing the code review summary to be generated when there's only one commit, and there was a supposedly simple one. So I made a change, but I shared my thought about that may not be the best one to do. So I started a conversation towards the end of almost the end of the milestone, like 15th or something, and that triggered the conversation dragging long, and then it went over the milestone, and in the end we had a chat, but we got it merged. So in that kind of scenario, I should have let it just go through the review process because that's the agreed thing to do. So then after that, maybe I have opened up another issue or something to discuss further. That would have been a better approach. So it'll be change of how I approach things may improve that, kind of a deliverable slippage kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the thing that I'm sorry about that. Keep bugging me. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing that I think I need to be focusing on from now on to improve. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
I went back and looked at, or I tried to look at my 16.3, and it seemed like there was stuff that I was kind of coming back off vacation. Although I think by that point, by the time that 16.3 started, I should have been back from vacation. But I think my brain was still in that zone. But I noticed that I delivered 4 issues, but only 2 of them were marked as deliverable. And I know that something that I do, or I feel like I end up doing is I get an issue and I dig into it, and then it's like, oh, we can't do this, or we're blocked by something else, so there's some other information, and so we reassign it, or we don't even. It just sort of sits in my queue waiting, because I'm like, oh, like in 16.4, I'll have that information, and the next thing shifts. And sometimes the thing that I can do with those is to do the paper, do the bureaucracy or the process work of making sure that the labels are correct and the assignments are correct for like milestones. But then to create an issue for the deliverable, like the investigation work, or I need to go have a conversation with the GitLab team. So I'll make an issue that's, have a conversation with the GitLab team. Just so that I can kind of track it and also like, kind of just show that there's iterative progress on things. I'm not always good at doing that, though. That's the ideal. I don't always manage to do
Yeah, I think, I'm struggling a little with I feel like we have a lot more investigation issues just in general lately, which could be contributing to this as well. How do we kind of iterate on investigation or is an investigation issue really a deliverable? Maybe those aren't actual deliverables. Maybe that's just work that we do in a milestone that that we assign and we work on, but we don't track it as a deliverable itself because we're not actually delivering something other than a better understanding of what to do next.
There's a fun line of like, I'm a big fan of like the epics and trying to like capture like when I've got like 4 or 5 issues, like I'm doing with like the database partitioning. Where I think I've got like I've got an epic, 2 children epics, 8 or 9 issues, like it's this whole thing. But it doesn't have to always be like that. But we can make an investigation issue that blocks a deliverable issue, right?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, like what's the goal at the end of the day with how we track this? Is it just to have metrics that we're funneling upwards to like, or up and out to keep track of things, or are you using it like a canary in a coal mine to see how we're doing?
That's a good question. I think part of it is, and I don't know that anyone is really kind of tracking it. So I think a year, maybe 18 months ago, it was more of a thing that people were kind of monitoring deliverables and like a say-do ratio, but that kind of fell out of fashion, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then maybe it's because not every team is doing it the same way. So it's hard to compare across teams or anything. So that could be part of it. For me, it's more of trying to make sure we're making commitments and trying to stick to those, kind of having an agreement with product of what we're going to get done, or what we're going to try to get done, and doing the best we can on that commitment. That in theory, that'll make it easier to plan, easier for like Kai to just to look at kind of what's coming and understand how long something's going to take, what the roadmap might look like, if he can kind of depend on us meeting our deliverables reliably, I guess.
Right.
I think so. It's more of an efficiency thing for me of let's try to make sure we're kind of we're making it easier to do planning because we know we're reliably meeting a certain percentage of our deliverables.
Yeah, I was thinking that the reliable is kind of the idea that sticks in my head of like the more reliable we seem both to ourselves and outwards. I mean, thinking of Kai as an outward consumer of our effort, almost like the more freedom we get, like the less anyone has to worry and be involved. So, which is the situation I don't like to be in, where people are watching what I'm doing all the time. I mean, not that anyone has to. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to.
Right. And I appreciated some of the comments in the retrospective too about the types of work potentially is getting harder. And I feel like I haven't fully gone back. I looked a little bit. It seemed like we were on a decent kind of consistent track, and then all this AI stuff happened, which threw us for a loop, understandably, and threw us for a loop, like the planning wise, I should say. And now that that's kind of not winding down, but getting a little more stable, a little more predictable of what work is coming, we're getting back to that planning. I think, Carrie, you mentioned something, maybe you can talk about that maybe just some of the kind of more obscure issues that are coming up now that we addressed some of the AI stuff, and then we addressed the bugs that had to happen right away. And now we're kind of trying to find out what's next. And there's some of these bigger projects, and maybe I'd be interested to hear what you were thinking, because you said, I have an idea, but I want to make sure I wasn't words in your mouth about like the subconscious feeling of kind of like that issues are maybe more obscure or not as important or something.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be because I'm taking on, or I get assigned some of the weirder stuff lately. Like, I feel like I've seen more, like you've thrown me the occasional, I feel like every release, Matt, you've thrown me some weird, like this bug's been around for 5 or 6 years, and Nick left some notes on it 3 years ago, and I'm like, is this even still relevant? Like I have to go back and almost reproduce it and start over from scratch. So yeah, there's a lot of like obscure stuff, and it's really easy to put that stuff off to the end, or you take care of the easy stuff first and get the easy wins, and then you find yourself with like 10 days left in the release, and you're like, oh, now I'm tackling the big thing.
I'm just wondering about those things, like just to get an idea. You're saying it's about 6 years old issue, right? Like, is it just came up because people keep having the issue, or is it just the issue that created like 6 years ago and no one looked at it and then we just suddenly picked it up? I'm just wanted to understand whether that's the issue that really need to be fixed, or is it something that, I don't know, we just have nothing else to do, so okay.
That is a good question. I mean, I might be exaggerating a little bit with the 6, but so this, for example, this release 11393, complex merge order dependencies. Nick opened this April 30th of 2019, which was what, 3 weeks after I started here. So there's definitely, like, I mean, this issue has been around for a long time. Like, why are we getting into it now? I couldn't tell you. I'd have to go in and read through 200 something comments here.
Yeah.
But I think,
yeah,
Matt, actually
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I was gonna say that I was just curious to know that whether it was the bug that constantly happening and then we didn't have time to actually fix it, and now we are fixing it, or whether it happened like long time ago, a couple times, and like we just think it needs to be fixed. So I guess there are two different things, right? So just wanted to understand.
And like that merge order dependency one, I think, is one that it's like, yes, we should fix that. And then it's always complex, and it's always been complex, and we always find a reason to push it out because it's complex. And now we're getting to the point, it's like, oh, maybe now's the time to do that. And then we're like, oh yeah, that's right. It is really complex. And like, it is going to take a lot of work, and and now it's been so long that, we're trying to dig out. But I think that's just that's a very good example of kind of what we've been saying in some of these around, and maybe they're the maturity of our stage is that we have a lot of, or the stuff that we can work on next or that we want to work on. Maybe it isn't these kind of quick win bugs that, oh yeah, we just have to change one line of code. It's things that require a lot of investigation or a lot of performance reviewing or setup to test this obscure thing that takes us days just to get our environment set up or something like that.
I want to I'm not trying to take blame or anything for this, but I wonder how much impact I'm having, because I will tag other people into issues quite frequently to say, hey, you've got experience or expertise, or you're more familiar with this particular area. And I don't know if maybe I'm contributing to some distraction with that, if that's something I can improve. And I know I do this to you, Sanshal, a lot, and I do this to Patrick as well. I'm like, hey, you know about merge refs, you look at this, or you touch this database thing. And I hope that I'm not, but I'd be curious.
Yeah, I think like, at least from my point of view, I don't think, I mean, like, obviously it by definition it's a distraction, but I don't consider to be a negative distraction. I think that's something that we all need to do as a part of work. So that never been any issue for me. So that was fine.
I've gotten the feedback a couple times that some people do, they don't want to be distracted by extra interrupt requests like that. So if you ever feel that way, just let me know. It's not a problem. I'll dial that back.
Yeah, I think it's sort of related to different. I think the other thing that I was going to mention in the other issue that I just commented is that I think I kind of feels more distracted about the review requests that are coming in than these ones, like at least the ones that you are commenting on, at least I touched on, at least I know something about. So it's easier for me to understand or like try to remind myself what I did and stuff like that. So it seemed to make sense for me to do that than a bunch of MRs that I have no idea what it's about. I need to go and figure it out, what it does, and then trying to do stuff that's more distracting, but also at the same time we consider them to be a higher priority than our deliverables, right? So by default we wanted to let someone else's work to go through instead of focusing our work. So by doing that, you delay your deliverables. So I guess that feels more distracting, especially my rhythm. Like every morning I wake up, I have a bunch of reviews came up, I sort it out, and I also spend so much time on my deliverables, and the next day going again. So that's sort of like a planning side for me. I need to limit that too. So, but I find that's more distracting than the questions that you were asking.
All right. I think this is great to think about these deliverables, and we will continue refining the process maybe around it a little bit of how do we, and one thing that kind of Patrick has asked too is trying to get more data around it too, which I'm working on to see if there's certain types of issues or yeah. So I'll see if I can pull any information out of there that might help us make decisions too, or help us understand the problem a little bit too.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was actually looking at the issues that is this retro only? It's not only backend retro, right? It's everyone
Correct.
in code review, right?
That's right. Yep.
There were too many issues to be sleeping for us.
Yeah,
team. But
they're not.
But I see that only
not
backend
even,
people are.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
But the main thing is that only the backend teams are tagged in, so I'm not sure why that's the case.
Yeah, and I usually take people just to start getting feedback earlier at appoint the triage bot, which apparently is now called Ghost User, tags everyone. But yeah, there hasn't been much input from people outside of the backend team.
Yeah, I mean, like if this, so they are providing additional information, so they are not actively part of this retro, but they're just providing additional information. Is that why they are tagged or not
Oh, they
assigned?
should be. Yeah, I would hope that they could to provide their feedback as well, and they sometimes do. Just this one is a good example of where it's almost all back end.
Yeah, I'm just because I got a little bit confused when I looked at the issues that slipped. When I click some of them, quite a few of them are front end stuff and
Okay.
like design or whatever and stuff like that, and I don't see them being assigned as part of the retro. So if the focus of having this retro is for backend, it may be helpful to weed out those things and just have the backend stuff so we have clearer understanding of what's clicked and stuff like that.
Yeah,
we
I
can
think
do
my
anything.
hope is that front end and stable counterparts as well would also chime in here on this retrospective. It should be for the whole group, not just the back end team, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can talk to Andre and see if we can get a little more activity. I'm a little overzealous trying to get feedback, so I tag you and I assign you and try to do whatever I can to try to squeeze some feedback out of everyone, which I really appreciate the time that people put into it. So thank you.
I'm wondering, Matt, if part of like, if we could capture like the original, the list of what was assigned.
Yeah.
So, and then not just what was delivered, but like everything that we delivered, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So like, did we shift our focus to deliver something else that isn't part of that list?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yes, I could. I think I have that list in my notes places, so I can pull those out at least for the last probably 6 or 8 milestones of what was originally marked as a deliverable, and then we could kind of compare that with what we actually or closed or shipped, I guess. Yeah, that would be interesting. To see, yeah, because either maybe people are working on things that became more important or that they thought was more important, but maybe it wasn't. It could be another part of that. Yeah, so yeah, I could pull that information together.
Yeah, because I for myself, like I judge my own performance based kind of like on the weight of what's in that closed column at the end of the release. Like I don't really think about the deliverable column. Like did I deliver everything in that start? I look at like how much work actually shipped by the end of the release, and that might not be the best. That might be a perfectly fine goal, but it might be a difference.
Yeah, right.
Just a divergent way of looking at productivity.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's I'll try to gather some more information around deliverables, and we'll take it from there, and we'll see if we can kind of zoom in a little bit and narrow down the scope, because right now it's very high level and kind of hypothetical or anecdotal, I guess I should say. Which I do appreciate, and I'm glad people are I kind of noticed it, and I'm glad people are coming up with things to at least confirm that I'm not making this up. So that's good. Was there anything else people wanted to chat about? Either stuff that's in the retrospective, what went well, what didn't go well?
I think that here, I think Gary mentioned, called out specifically Patrick for collaboration. But I would want to like expand that to say that yet again, everybody seems to be really helping out and working together. So, I mean, I would underline that and not, let's not lose fact of like that. That's actually a really good thing, even though we do it all the time. It's still a really valuable trait, and it's not universal.
Yes, I agree. It's unique to this team, I think, that everyone contributes at such a high level and collaborates, which I really appreciate. So thank you.
I also see us all getting pulled into other neighboring teams projects. A lot of that was with security, Gidly, and AI work. And I think that we're, that's one of the causes, or one of the suspected complications around the deliverable thing, but also the fact that we are a team that is going to be doing that work, and I see us doing it, and that's really super valuable. We can act like a very approachable, dependable team to our near peers, or our peers, I guess, not near peers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. All right. Any other retrospective topics people want to bring up? All right. Well, thanks, everyone.